Okay, so imagine this. You wake up, you can't see anything, you can't really move, and you can barely even talk. All you hear is this calm, computerized voice. But here's the kicker. You have no idea who you are, or where you are. Your entire life is just a total blank. Well, this is the starting point for one of the greatest scientific detective stories I've ever come across. A mystery that kicks off with a single, incredibly simple question.
Before he finally manages to get out? Correct. The computer seems happy with that, at least for now. As his eyes finally adjust to the crazy bright light, his world starts to come into focus. He's in some kind of weird oval bed hooked up to a million tubes. And get this, watching him are cameras and two kind of menacing robotic arms hanging from the ceiling. Yeah, you know right away, this is not a normal hospital room.
He eventually gets himself to sit up and take a real look around, and he sees two other beds. For a split second, he's relieved he's not alone. But that feeling doesn't last long. His companions, well, they haven't moved in a very, very long time. They're basically mummies, one man, one woman. And just like that, the mystery goes from confusing to downright horrifying. He's the only one left alive. But alive from what?
So he has no memories, no name, not a clue about his past. But he pretty quickly discovers he has one tool that works perfectly: his brain. Specifically, a deep, almost instinctual understanding of science. It's the only thing he can hold on to. And his first big clue that something is seriously wrong isn't what he sees, it's what he feels. He decides to use science to figure it out. Why does everything feel so heavy?
Now this is where it gets really cool, because it shows how science is just the ultimate problem-solving tool. He finds a tape measure, a stopwatch, and a test tube. So simple, right? He drops the tube from the table, 91 centimeters, again and again and again, timing every single fall. The average time is 0.348 seconds. He then plugs that into a basic physics formula that just comes to him, like breathing. And the answer is undeniable. The force pulling everything down is 1.5 times what it should be on Earth.
The math just doesn't lie. Even without knowing his own name, he knows he can trust those numbers. He thinks through all the other possibilities. Is he in a giant centrifuge or something? He does more experiments, scribbling equations on the wall. But no, the numbers only point to one single impossible conclusion. This isn't some secret lab. And with that terrifying thought, his mind starts to unlock something much, much bigger.
His memories don't come back in some neat, tidy way. They hit him in these sudden, jarring flashes, triggered by the weirdest things. A line of his own blood on the floor suddenly triggers a memory, an email he read a long time ago with the subject "the thin red line." And with that one memory comes the crushing weight of why he's here. The stakes aren't just about him, they are literally astronomical. He remembers this huge global puzzle that started everything. It was discovered by a Russian astronomer, Irina Petrova, this strange glowing arc in space that just defied all known physics. At first, it was just a scientific curiosity, but it didn't take long for researchers to connect it to something far, far more terrifying happening to our own sun.
And this is what's so terrifying, the perfect, horrifying symmetry of the problem. Data came back from a solar probe that confirmed the absolute unthinkable. The sun's energy was dropping, and the energy the sun was losing was perfectly, exactly balanced by the energy the Petrova line was gaining. Something was literally eating our sun.
So, and this is the crucial point, right? This wasn't some distant academic problem for our great-great-grandchildren. The dimming was happening exponentially. In less than a decade, you're talking global crop failures, mass starvation. Within 20 years, a 5% drop would plunge Earth into an immediate ice age. We're talking end of civilization. Humanity was on a ticking clock. And this existential threat is the backdrop for all his returning memories. He finally remembers his name, Ryland Grace. And he wasn't some hotshot astrophysicist. He was a junior high school science teacher who'd actually left the world of high-level research. He was drafted by this crazy powerful international task force because of a controversial paper he wrote years ago. They needed someone who could think way, way outside the box.
And what did they bring him in to study? The culprit itself. A probe actually brought back samples from the Petrova line, and that's when humanity made first contact. Not with intelligent aliens, nope, but with a tiny, single-celled organism. It's basically a kind of space algae that thrives in the sun's heat and just gobbles up its energy. He even remembers coining the name for it himself, astrophage, the star eater. And he wasn't sent on this desperate last-chance mission alone. Humanity's last hope, a ship they called the Hail Mary, had a crew of 3. He now remembers Commander Yao, the stern, all-business leader from China, and Alessia Ilyukina, the brilliant and hilarious Russian engineer who could always make him laugh. They were the absolute best humanity had to offer.
He looks at the mummified bodies of his friends, and the full, crushing weight of his reality just hits him like a ton of bricks. The medically induced coma they needed for the long journey, it was incredibly risky, and only he made it through. He is the lone survivor of Project Hail Mary, the final desperate gamble to save every single person back on Earth. So, finally remembering his name, Ryland Grace is able to unlock the door to the control room, and the very first thing he sees is a velocity readout that makes absolutely no sense. The ship is slowing down, but its current speed is over 11,000 kilometers per second. Just to put that in perspective, you only need about 8 kilometers per second to orbit the Earth. This speed it's just beyond anything you would ever need inside our solar system.
Grace pulls up a live view of the star he's heading towards, and this is the final piece of the puzzle. He zooms in on a bunch of sunspots, and using just his watch and some quick math on his arm, he figures out the star's rotational speed. It takes just over 2 days to do a full spin. Our sun, it takes 25 days. The star on his screen is spinning more than 10 times too fast. And then all the pieces just slam into place. The insane velocity, the crushing G-forces he thought were just gravity, the alien-looking star. The mission was never just to study the astrophage near our sun, it was to follow the Petrova line all the way to its source, another star in another system that was also being eaten. A star that got infected long before ours did. He is 12 light years from home.
So here he is, Ryland Grace, a science teacher, is the only conscious human being in a completely alien solar system. His crew is gone, his memory is still a mess, and the fate of our entire planet is sitting squarely on his shoulders. I mean, this is the ultimate test of problem solving, isn't it? When you're armed with nothing but the scientific method against the end of the world. Where in the world do you even begin?